Professor Dr. Ashok Lahiri, our guest of honor, we welcome you, sir. Professor Vinod Srivastav, General Secretary, UPUEA, we welcome you, sir.
नमस्कार and very good morning. आप सभी का यहाँ पर स्वागत है. All of you are welcome here in the 17th Annual National Conference, Uttar Pradesh-Uttarakhand Economic Association, hosted by School of Business Studies, Sharda University. Conferences are an essential part of academic life and catalyst for change. These provide wonderful opportunity for networking and exposure to the latest research. Francis Bacon, the renowned essayist, has rightly said, reading makes a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. And I hope that this conference will make us ready for future progressive work and will help bring transformation with the fast-changing time, trend, and technology. With these words, I would like to invite Dr. Parul Saxena to carry forward the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. In the words of famous poet W.B. Yeats, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. As the luminaries and the stalwarts from the field of academics and administration across the country have gathered here to deliberate and present some constructive solutions to the tough times our economies and societies are going through post-COVID, this quote sets the tone of this two-day program to follow, and we are surely going to witness few sparks here. आप सभी गणमान्य अतिथियों और दिग्गजों का उत्तर प्रदेश उत्तराखंड इकोनॉमिक एसोसिएशन और शारदा यूनिवर्सिटी द्वारा आयोजित इस 17वें वार्षिक राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन में स्वागत है. हम भाग्यशाली हैं जो एसोसिएशन और यूनिवर्सिटी के सदस्यों के प्रयास से आज शिक्षाविदों की एक आकाश गंगा हम यहाँ संजो पाए हैं. आप सभी का फिर से हार्दिक स्वागत है. But before we formally start, we've asked the tradition with Sharda University, a brief about Sharda University. Sharda University is a leading educational institution, a venture of renowned Sharda group of institutions. The university has established itself as a high-quality education provider with prime focus on holistic learning. Ever since its establishment in 2009, the university has created facilities for a wide spectrum of disciplines from engineering, management to design and medical sciences. In a belief that excellence is defined by the quality of research and innovative approaches, and to accomplish excellence, we have always looked beyond the boundaries. And this program is one such effort in that direction. As the name of the university, Sharda, is synonymous to Goddess Saraswati, an embodiment of knowledge and learning. It is our undying tradition at Sharda University to invoke the blessings of Goddess at the beginning of any important event. And for this, I would now request respected Dean SPS along with other dignitaries to proceed for lamp lighting. Student volunteers kindly escort. आए हम सभी ज्ञान और कला की देवी माँ सरस्वती के आशीर्वाद का आह्वान करते हैं.
हे शारदे, 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 हमको प्रगति के द्वार दे, अभिनव गति के द्वार दे. हे शारदे, हे शारदे, हे शारदे, हे शारदे. राम तू संचार दे सर्व विद्या चल रही आलोक के विस्तार में समाज को गतिमान करके सृजन के व्यवहार में कल्याण सर्व समाज का सामर्थ्य अपनी भी बढ़े संकल्प निष्ठा शक्ति दे सबको अडिग आधार दे अब हर प्रबंधन से सहज शाश्वत सजग समुदाय हो वाणिज्य या अभियांत्रिकी या चिकित्सा संकाय हो फिर से बने भारत जगत गुरु ज्ञान नवाचार से सबके
Thank you so much. Now, before starting this conference formally, I will request Professor Jitendra Kumar and Dr. Manisha Gupta, Member Core Committee, to honor our dignitaries by presenting bouquet. We'll start with Shri Parmanandji, Acting Vice Chancellor, Sharda University. Our guest of honor, Shri Ashok Lahiri ji, Member 15 Finance Commission and former Chief Economic Advisor. Shri Ravi Srivastava ji, President UPUEA. Shri Vinod Srivastava ji, General Secretary UPUEA. Professor D.K. Noryal, IIT Roorkee, former Vice Chancellor, Kumaon University. Shri Ashok Mittal ji, Chairman Kautilya Award Committee. Shri Vinod Srivastava ji, General Secretary UPUEA. Shri Vivek Kumar Gupta ji, Registrar, Sharda University. Thank you so much, Jiten sir and Manisha ma'am. Now I would like to invite conference convener, Professor Jayanti Ranjan. She is a seasoned academician, administrator, and a dynamic leader. presently designated as Dean School of Business Studies, Sharda University. Ma'am, you are requested to deliver welcome address.
A warm good morning, pranam to everybody. First of all, you will have to excuse me because this is not my voice. My decibels have changed. So my apologies first with this voice. My pranam and warm good morning to all the people who are there and the dignitaries. This day is very special for Sharda University and Sharda School of Business. The reasons are twofold. I'll explain to you why. Any conference that happens as an academician, I know very well paper presentations do happen, technical sessions do happen. But however, this conference is so blessed that besides paper presentations, around 72 elite panelists have come today, and tomorrow we'll have a very blasting, vibrating, copious flow of knowledge. And this is so special to Sharda University because students, you must know, PRADESH-UTTARAKHAND Economic Association, 17th time they are doing in our premises, and for 16 times they have chosen only central universities. That means Sharda University is so blessed as a private university, and Sharda University is proving that, look, collaboration is important, confluence of knowledge is important. It is not that private or public, only the academic goodwill is important. I think Sharda University has proven this by collaborating with this conference. It is going to achieve milestones. All of us know very well, Ano Bhadraha Katavo Pashyantu Eshatam. In the sense, let the noble thoughts come wheresoever. Why I am quoting is that, in the welcome speech, when I find a lot of academicians, elite economists. This conference theme itself is economics. But I find a lot of interdisciplinary topics that are coming in the conference. But before that, allow me to welcome one by one the dignitaries, the elite experts who have come here. You see, for any huge events, the extreme generous support, blessings of chancellors, pro-chancellors, vice-chancellor, these all are very much imminent for any university, for any such big events. I'm so blessed. Most of you may be wondering that the chancellor chair is empty. You will be finding him in a few minutes. He'll be sharing because he's stuck up somewhere. He'll be coming there. So my sincere warm greetings and welcome to our chancellor who will be coming. My sincere welcome to Dr. Paramanand. I always call as, because computer science, I have a special fetish affection on him because of computer science. Our officiating vice-chancellor who has been kind enough to accept graces. Sir, a very hearty warm welcome to you, Paramanand, sir. I feel pleasure in welcoming Dr. Ashok Lahiri. Allow me to introduce him, member 15th Finance Commission, former Chief Economic Advisor, Government of India, former Chairman of Bandhan Bank, Executive Director at Asian Development Bank, Director of National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and he has served extensively with World Bank and International Monetary Fund, IMF. Whoever are economics people, whoever are students or faculty or elite economists, I don't think so that Ashok Lahiri name, nobody will be knowing it because he is a name that comes very randomly on Google when you search the word economics. Sir, you and economics go together, sir. So hearty welcome to you, sir. I also welcome Professor P.K. Sinha, Conference President, former Vice-Chancellor Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, Awadh University, Ayodhya. Sir, thank you very much. We welcome you to our Sharda University. My hearty welcome to Professor Ravi Srivastava, whom I have been coordinating day in and day out, the President of UPUEA and former Professor Chair, Center for Studies in Regional Development, JNU. Sir, we welcome you to our Sharda University. I take pleasure in welcoming Dr. Vinod Srivastava, General Secretary, UPUEA, Professor Ashok Mittal, Professor, School of Social Sciences. Most of you know very well, he was the Vice Chancellor of Dr. Ambedkar University, Agra. I welcome Kautilya Awadi, Professor D.K. Naurial, Professor, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Roorkee, former Vice Chancellor, Kumaon University, Nainital. A special warm welcome to our guest of honor, Dr. Mamta Agarwal. I know she's very busy lady, advisor AICT, and she has been kind enough to accept our invitation. Thank you, Mamta ma'am, for making it a special warm welcome to you. I welcome all the academicians, the paper presenters, guest of honors, the sponsors, the media officials, the public relations departments, dignitaries. Now, of course, my hearty welcome to my Sharda University students, the deans, my affectionate deans and professors, the faculty, the staff, and my special warm welcome to my SBS faculty, staff, and students. Hearty welcome. Allow me to quote one small word in Krishna Yajurveda Taittiriya. All of us know it very well, but this is very special moment. Let the Supreme protect the teacher and the student, the learner and the seeker. You know what I'm going to say it. Let's consume knowledge together. Let's collaborate together. Let's perform together with concentration, and let's produce good energy. What we study should be leading to knowledge and wisdom. May it not give rise to hostility. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. This is the one which actually suits for all academicians, for all conferences, because the copious knowledge that we are going to produce in these 2 days, this is how we are going to consume by producing academic goodwill. My hearty welcome to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a meaningful and encouraging welcome address. Now I would like to invite Shri Ravi Srivastava-ji, President UPUEA. He is a former professor and chair, Center for Studies in Regional Development, Jawaharlal Nehru University. He is also a recipient of a prestigious V.V. Giri Memorial Award. Sir, it's our pleasure to have you here. We request you to say a few words for the conference.
Thank you very much. Before I say a few words about the association which I am currently chairing, let me first extend my thanks and gratitude to our host, Sharda University. To the Chancellor, Shri Y.K. Gupta, to the Pro-Chancellor, Shri P.K. Gupta, the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sibaram Khaira, the Acting Vice Chancellor, who is present with us today, Dr. Parmanand, to the Dean, Dr. Jayanti Rajan, who is really a human dynamo. The way I've seen her function over the past few weeks, and the one question I always ask her, where do you get this energy from? She has been at work from early in the morning, late at night, every day. She has visited every place where our honorable guests, the delegates, are staying. And of course, the two professors of eminence, Professor Prem Vashish, who happens to be the reason why we, the UPUEA, are here, and Professor Arora. So thank you very much, Sharda University, for letting us come to know firsthand your excellent infrastructure and for acquainting ourselves with your students during our stay and learning more about the university and its many contributions. I am especially grateful to our guest of honor today, Dr. Ashok Lahiri. Dr. Ashok Lahiri and I go back a very long number of years. I've known him since 1973, so clearly almost 50 years, actually almost to the day. So it's a pleasure that we have somebody of his stature with us today. He has worked extensively with the Asian Development Bank. He has been Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. He has worked in the 15th Finance Commission. He is an excellent academic, policy maker, and human being. Thank you very much for being with us today. Honorable guests, delegates, and more than all of you, the student community and members of the academic community of Sharda University who are present with us today, let me very briefly introduce the UP and Uttarakhand Economics Association to you. We began with very modest beginnings in the year 2005 in Banaras. Many of the stalwarts who founded the association then are with us today. Professor A.K. Singh sitting here, Professor P.K. Pandey, I think, is somewhere in the audience, and many of you are still here working to strengthen this association in your midst. Why do we create these associations? Why do we create these professional associations? We create these professional associations, first of all, to bring excellence to the profession. The profession of economics is not only engaged in teaching, it is actively engaged in providing evidence-based research to policy. It provides the bridge, it has to provide the bridge between good evidence-based research and policy. But I must warn you, the marriage between experts and policy analysts such as ourselves and those who eventually make the policies, those who are in governance, is not a honeymoon. It is actually a marriage with many ups and downs. We as analysts and experts think it is our job to provide the large picture to policymakers at all levels. Policymakers think that they know what is best for society at large. So we don't always have the same objective functions, but we do our jobs to the best of our ability. And the job of the association is to train the young and the old, the experienced and not so experienced, in the jobs that we have to do and provide a link with the policymakers. At this conference, which is our 17th conference, we are striving to promote this link in many ways. We have been constantly in touch with the Chief Ministers of UP and Uttarakhand, the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. All of them have given us our blessings, have promised to support us, and have asked us to give us their feedbacks after this conference. This is one of the ways in which we try and promote the links with policymakers. We are very thankful to them for their support. You will hear a message from them soon after this as part of the inaugural session. Secondly, during the course of the conference deliberations, particularly today, but also tomorrow, we bring to you some of the best experts and policy makers in this country. Beginning with Dr. Ashok Lahiri today, every single speaker who will speak today is not only an economist and a policy analyst, he has contributed extensively to the area of policy making in this country, including myself. So all of us have been in this arena for a long time. We have contributed directly to policy. We have been in touch with policy makers at all levels, and we continue to perform this job. So this bridge is what we are trying to connect. During the course of this conference, you will also hear two panels. One on gender and development. As you know, women hold up half the sky, but they do not presently hold up half the economy in this country. We want them to reach there and more. Therefore, one of the panels today is devoted to gender and development in the states of UP and Uttarakhand. Another panel tomorrow is devoted to youths and skill development. And again, you will hear a number of experts speak in this panel tomorrow. Over 200 people will be giving scholars, both young and experienced, will be reading their papers during the course of this conference. These conferences and associations, on the one hand, bring experienced scholars. On the other hand, they are training grounds for younger scholars to learn how to develop their tools of the trade better. And I hope they go back with a good experience. So this is the job of the association. The UP and Uttarakhand Economics Association organizes continuous activities throughout the year. It brings out a journal. We have a long way to go, a long way to achieving better standards and excellence in the field of economics. And believe me, UP will only strive for excellence if its professions and the profession of economics and its allied disciplines, commerce, business studies, and all the related areas also excel in their teaching and research. This is our aim. This is our modest aim. We will continue to strive in this direction. Thank you very much for being with us today and for participating in the deliberations today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the pulse of wisdom and briefing us about the working of this association and contribution of economists, analysts, and the policymakers. I would now like to invite Professor Dr. Parmananji, Dean Academic, Sharda University. Sir is IIT alumnus with 27 years of experience in industry and academia and a recipient of many prestigious awards. Sir, it's our honor to have you here. We would like to have few words from you.
Very good morning to all of you. It's nice to see you. One of the very good conference in the School of Engineering Technology, School of Business and Studies. It's a 17th annual national conference on Uttar Pradesh-UTTARAKHAND Economics Association. I'm happy to know that this is the first time this conference is being organized in Sharda University and as well as in the private university. So I'd like to congratulate our Dean, Professor Jayanti ma'am, for organizing such a wonderful conference. Let me welcome our guest, our Honorable Chancellor P.K. Gupta ji. In absence, Honorable Pro-Chancellor Y.K. Gupta ji. In absence, our guest of honor, Dr. Lahiri ji. Professor Ravi Srivastava ji, Professor P.K. Sinha ji, Professor Ashok Mittal ji, and Professor Sinha ji. Professor Jayanti Ranjan, faculty members, our students. As rightly said, the conferences are organized to learn from each other, get the experience of the learned people, getting the experience and learning out of those who are working in their own domain and experts for many years. It's not only to attend the conferences, we need to attend and we need to take away all the learnings which we are getting out of these conferences. The topics and the themes of the conferences are really very interesting. Some of the themes are like COVID-19 and post-pandemic analysis, effects on the education and economics. The analysis are really important after the COVID-19 pandemic situation. It's not only the economics we affected during the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Is the academics also suffered a lot. The learning of the students also suffered a lot. But at the Sharda University, we never lost control of our academics. Our academics went very smooth and it followed all the activities which were placed in the academic calendar. Our faculties and students supported very well in whole pandemic's duration. They come up with their own innovative ideas while delivering the lecture. Giving the lectures on the laboratories. In many other times, the faculty has taken the video. They've made the video on their own and shown to the students how the laboratory is going to run. Examinations went on their own dates. The benefit was that our promotion of the students went on their own actual timings. And the biggest beneficial were our final students who passed out on time. They got their jobs, and many of them are working in very good companies. Sharda University, as all of us know, that has a lot of focus on the research, innovation, research-based learning, project-based learning, and very much aligned with the National Education Policy 2020. We are among all the universities, and we are the first probably to introduce National Education Policy 2020. Though many of the aspects of the curriculum or academics were in the alignment of the education policy, but we fine-tuned. We made more focus on the research, experiential learning, holistic development, employability, entrepreneurship. The more focus has been given on creation of job providers instead of job seekers. This is all possible because of the visionary, our Chancellor, sir, Pro-Chancellor, and Vice-Chancellor. And hopefully over the period of time in coming days, we will be able to produce more entrepreneurs than others. Our academic delivery is more aligning towards the delivery based. We are always talking about in different platforms with HODs, deans, faculties, what will be the outcome at the end. We should not work on the projects, writing the reports which lies on the shelf. We need to think of how should it be taken to in the uses. Without taking too much of time, welcome all of you in our one of the great conference, and thank you.
धन्यवाद सर आपकी उपस्थिति का और आपके प्रोत्साहन भरे शब्दों का। हम जानते हैं कि आप हमेशा एक मार्गदर्शक के रूप में हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं और आपका आशीर्वाद और शुभकामनाएं हमारे लिए बहुत मायने रखती हैं। मैं अनुरोध करूंगी श्री विनोद श्रीवास्तव जी से कि वो रामनामी से हमारे प्रमानंद सर को सम्मानित करें। विनोद श्रीवास्तव जी।
धन्यवाद। हमारी रंजन मैम का आदेश है कि आप बताइए कि ये क्या है। तो ये अयोध्या का प्रसाद है मैम, और ये एसोसिएशन की तरफ से हम जो होस्ट इंस्टीट्यूट होता है उसके जो पदाधिकारी होते हैं उनको हम कुछ थोड़ा मोड़ा सम्मान की बात करते हैं। तो ये कनक बिहारी जी की मूर्ति है, भगवान प्रभु श्री राम है, और एक रामनामी है जिसको एसोसिएशन की तरफ से माननीय एक्टिंग वाइस चांसलर महोदय को दिया जाएगा। मैं सादर वो भेंट उनको देना चाहता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर। मेरा अनुरोध चाहता है डॉक्टर मृदुला मिश्रा जी को, जो आकर हमारी डीन प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जयंती रंजन को रामनामी से सम्मानित करेंगी। प्रोफेसर मृदुला मिश्रा जी। हाँ, मृदुला जी आपको देंगे। धन्यवाद। ये सम्मेलन परिणाम है। ये सम्मेलन परिणाम है बहुत सी शुभकामनाओं और आशीर्वादों का, और इसमें सबसे प्रमुख है आशीर्वाद हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी का और उप मुख्यमंत्री श्री ब्रजेश पाठक जी का, जो किसी कारणवश नहीं जुड़ सके हैं हमारे साथ, पर हम आभारी हैं उनके और उनके कार्यालय के, जिन्होंने उनका आशीर्वाद एक संदेश के रूप में हम तक पहुंचाया है। श्री ब्रजेश पाठक जी वर्तमान में उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार के उप मुख्यमंत्री और कैबिनेट मंत्री विधायी न्याय ग्रामीण इंजीनियरिंग सेवा के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। वे 2004 से 2009 तक उन्नाव के पूर्व सांसद भी रहे हैं। महोदय एक गतिशील नेता और एक सक्षम प्रशासक के रूप में भी माने जाते हैं। पर हम उससे पहले कि उनका संदेश आप तक पहुंचाएं, मैं अनुरोध करूंगी श्री विनोद श्रीवास्तव जी से कि वो आकर कुछ पंक्तियां उनके बारे में हमें बताएं।
धन्यवाद मैडम। जैसा कि मैम ने बताया कि यहाँ पे माननीय सीएम श्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी को भी हम लोगों ने रिक्वेस्ट किया था और उनको आना था, लेकिन चूँकि समीक्षा बैठक चल रही है और उनकी व्यस्तताएँ थीं, जिसके कारण वो यहाँ पे नहीं आ सके। उप मुख्यमंत्री महोदय से भी निवेदन किया गया था और उन्होंने कमिटमेंट किया था कि मैं आऊँगा, आज के दिन उनका कमिटमेंट था। लेकिन चूँकि उत्तर प्रदेश निरंतर बढ़ रहा है, उस बढ़ने की कड़ी में हर विभाग के मंत्री को ही उसके विभाग का प्रेजेंटेशन देना है, तो इसके कारण मंत्रीगण बाहर नहीं जा पा रहे हैं। लखनऊ की बात हो या अयोध्या की बात हो तो लोग वहाँ आसानी से पहुँच जाते हैं, लेकिन मैंने निवेदन किया और इसके पीछे जयंती मैम रही कि लगातार प्रयास करती रहीं। मैं लखनऊ का होने के नाते, अयोध्या का होने के नाते मैंने भी प्रयास किया और वो प्रयास सफल रहा। तो माननीय डिप्टी सीएम साहब ने, बहुत ही सुहृदयी है, मैं उनसे कई बार मिला हूँ, आप भी जाएंगे तो बहुत अच्छे से मिलते हैं। और हमको पहले डिप्टी सीएम मिले जो कि ऑनर के साथ चाय वगैरह भी पिलाते हैं जाने पे, वो ये नहीं कि बहुत समय कम है। तो उनका बहुत बहुत आभार और धन्यवाद पूरे एसोसिएशन की तरफ से, शारदा विश्वविद्यालय की तरफ से। वो आपके स्वास्थ्य मंत्री भी हैं मैम, जो कि मैम इस समय उनके पास आपका हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट है, तो वो आने का उनका इंटरेस्ट था कि आएंगे तो इस बार विजिट भी कर लेंगे, लेकिन कुछ ऐसी व्यस्तता हो गई कि वो नहीं आ पाए। तो परसों मॉर्निंग में यही था तो उनका फ़ोन आया कि आप किसी को भेजिए, मैं इनाग्रल एड्रेस स्पीच में कन्वर्ट कर देता हूँ और आप वहाँ पे उसको चलवा देंगे। मेरी शुभकामनाएं हैं और मैं हमेशा यूपी उत्तराखंड इकोनॉमिक एसोसिएशन, हम शारदा यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ हैं और मौका लगेगा तो हम विजिट जरूर करेंगे, ऐसा उन्होंने एश्योरेंस दिया है। अभी जब आप उनकी स्पीच सुनेंगे तो उस स्पीच में भी उन्होंने ये कहा है कि मैं आने का इच्छुक था, लेकिन चूँकि बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है और उस जिम्मेदारी के साथ वो लोग उतना समय नहीं दे पाते। तो मैं, जो भी हमारे आयोजक हैं, जो बच्चे हैं, बहुत ही तन्मयता से आप लोग सुन रहे हैं, स्पीच उनकी अच्छी से सुनिएगा। ये स्पीच ही उनका इनाग्रल एड्रेस है जिसको कि उन्होंने कहा है और उन्होंने समय दिया। तो इसके लिए हम पूरे यूपीआ परिवार की तरफ से, हम पूरे शारदा विश्वविद्यालय की तरफ से माननीय सीएम साहब को और डिप्टी सीएम साहब को आभार ज्ञापित करते हैं। अब मैं टेक्निकल टीम से निवेदन करूंगा कि कृपया माननीय डिप्टी सीएम श्री ब्रिजेश पाठक जी का जो इनाग्रल एड्रेस है उसको आप चलाने की कृपा करें। और आप सभी से निवेदन है कि उनका ये भाषण है, उन्होंने प्रोसीडिंग की बात की है और ये शासन को जाएगी, तो सब लोग ध्यान से सुनिएगा। एक बार पुनः उत्तर प्रदेश प्रशासन के माननीय सीएम साहब को और डिप्टी सीएम साहब को पूरे परिवार की तरफ से बहुत ढेर सारी हार्दिक आभार। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। प्लीज़।
बड़े हर्ष का विषय है कि उत्तर प्रदेश उत्तराखंड आर्थिक महासंघ ने 22-23 अप्रैल को नोएडा के शारदा विश्वविद्यालय में एक सेमिनार का आयोजन किया है, जो कोविड-19 के दौरान अर्थव्यवस्था पर हमारा क्या प्रभाव पड़ा है उस संबंध में मुख्य विचारणीय बिंदु होंगे। मुझे लगता है कि कोविड-19 के दौरान जिस ढंग से उत्तर प्रदेश उत्तराखंड ने आर्थिक प्रगति अपनी बरकरार रखी, इसके साथ ही साथ पीड़ित वंचित जनता के हित के लिए जो काम किए हैं, चाहे उन्हें मुफ्त भोजन उपलब्ध कराना ना हो, चाहे घर घर कोरोना की किट बांटनी नहीं हो, इसके अलावा जिस ढंग से कोरोना महामारी का नियंत्रण उत्तर प्रदेश उत्तराखंड में हुआ है, पूरे देश और दुनिया में इस बात की चर्चा रही है। खासकर मैं जिक्र उत्तर प्रदेश का करना चाहूँगा। उत्तर प्रदेश में आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी ने आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के कुशल मार्गनिर्देशन में जिस ढंग से कोविड-19 का सामना किया है, पूरे देश और दुनिया में इस बात की चर्चा है। उत्तर प्रदेश 25 करोड़ आबादी वाला प्रदेश होने के बावजूद बहुत बेहतर ढंग से कोविड का प्रबंधन हुआ है। हमने सभी चिकित्सकों को और सभी जो हमारे जनता जनार्दन के लोग थे, सबको एक सूत्र में पिरो करके हमने कोविड हेल्प डेस्क बनाए और हमने आंगनबाड़ी जो महिलाएं थी, जो आशा बहुएं हमारी कार्य करती थी, सबको साथ लेकर के हमने घर घर कोरोना किट वितरण किया, उनको ट्रेस किया, उनकी हमने जांच कराई। जांच के साथ ही सर्वाधिक जो टीकाकरण है वो उत्तर प्रदेश में हुआ। उत्तर प्रदेश प्रथम राज्य है जिसने सबसे पहले टीकाकरण 100% कर दिया है। बच्चों में कोविड-19 का प्रभाव न पड़े इसलिए पहले 18 वर्ष के नीचे आयु के बच्चों को लिया, अब 12 से 14 तक के बच्चों को भी हम टीकाकरण कर रहे हैं। इसके लिए सभी स्कूल और डिग्री कॉलेजेस में हमने कैंप लगाए हैं और सरकार ने निर्देश दिए कि किसी भी स्तर पर बच्चों के साथ कोई खिलवाड़ न हो, सबको टीकाकरण किया जाए। इसके अलावा जो तीसरा बूस्टर डोज की चर्चा हम अवश्य करना चाहेंगे। जो बुजुर्ग हैं, जो बीमार हैं, जिनको तीसरे डोज की आवश्यकता है, उनके लिए भी सरकार ने इसको नियंत्रण से मुक्त कर दिया है। कोई भी व्यक्ति अस्पताल में जाकर के, जो अधिकृत अस्पताल हैं, प्राइवेट या सरकारी, वहाँ जाकर के तीसरा डोज भी ले सकता है। मैं ऐसे महासंघ के सेमिनार के अवसर पर बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ और आभार प्रकट करता हूँ। वैसे मैं स्वयं ही आता, लेकिन पहले से कार्यक्रम तय है इसलिए मैं आ नहीं पा रहा हूँ। मैं सेमिनार की सफलता के लिए शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ और उम्मीद करता हूँ कि उत्तर प्रदेश उत्तराखंड मिल करके दोनों भाई देश में एक ऐसा मुकाम हासिल करेंगे जहाँ सब लोग देखेंगे कि दोनों भाई पहले की तरह साथ रह करके विकास के पथ पर तेजी के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आभार।
धन्यवाद उप मुख्यमंत्री श्री ब्रिजेश पाठक जी का, जिन्होंने अपना संदेश हम तक पहुंचाया। जिस कार्य का आरंभ आशीर्वाद और शुभकामनाओं से होता है, वो कार्य वास्तव में सुचारू रूप से सफल होता है। इसी कामना के साथ अब हम इनवाइट करेंगे प्रोफेसर पीके सिन्हा जी को। प्रोफेसर सिन्हा इज अ फॉर्मर वाइस चांसलर डॉक्टर राम मनोहर लोहिया अवध यूनिवर्सिटी He is a highly seasoned academician and professional with a vast experience. His contribution in the education sector and in UPUEA is unmatched. Sir, we are really honored to have you here. Few words from you, sir.
Thank you, the host. Mr. Chairman, Professor Ravi Srivastava, the President of our esteemed association, Dr. Lahiri, our guest of honor, other dignitaries at the dais, Professor Binod, Professor Mittal, I express my deep sense of gratitude to the members of the Uttar Pradesh-Uttaranchal Economic Association for electing me as the conference president for its 17th annual conference. Friends, I just want to express my feelings that we are very fortunate to have an excellent host like Sharda University, a very scholar president like Professor Ravi Srivastava, a young, a smart and dynamic secretary in the form of Binod Srivastava, and in the form of bonus, we shall be hearing Dr. Lahiri today. We have chosen India at the rate of 75 and assessment of development challenges in the light of COVID-19. Friends, it is with a sense of inadequacy and constraints. Inadequacy in the sense that I am not an expert on COVID. And therefore I feel constraints. During the period of COVID, I was simply an spectator, and whatever experience I could get and whatever I could know about the Indian economy, some of the problems, I did like to pen it down, and I am going to briefly present with you. So issues of economic development and pandemic have to be seen in a very large perspective of in the light of our efforts, demands for socio-economic infrastructure and social justice. We all are aware, but mainly for the students, that India started as a mixed economy, not a socialist one. In the non-agricultural field, the state occupied commanding heights as investment in the major sector of the economy was made by the state. There was no bar on private sector investment, but subject to the limits set by the 5-year plan, giving rise to licenses, it is all known. The leading institutions and individuals in the private sector, they desired the state to invest in the basic goods sector. The state tried to promote more equitable distribution of assets of production to ensure less inequitable distribution of income. For this purpose, it abolished jamindaris, regulated tenancy, and also fixed ceilings on land holdings by the individuals. Even in urban areas, there was a limit to the area of land size one could own for building construction. There was restrictions on consumption of automobiles and luxury goods through higher customs, excise and sales tax. These measures resulted in limits to inequality and distribution of income and wealth. But it also resulted in much slower growth in total national product and income. Some economists, we all know the name, some economists call it 3% average long-term growth as Hindu rate of growth. Towards the end of this type of growth, 40% of our population remained poor. In the latter half of planning period, there was high growth of rice and wheat, leading to freedom from import of food grains. But in most matters, the economy could not sustain and register rapid growth. The economy could not export, and therefore there was no position, it was in no position to finance imports and industry's input. Foreign investment was dependent on planned priorities. The situation in 80s was not good at all. In 1991, the then government took a very bold decision. I am just trying to brief it. This is in 1991, the then government took a bold decision and did away with many such restrictions, controls and licenses, permitted free investment by domestic and foreign investors in the non-farm sector. There was lowering of taxes on individuals and companies. The economy ceased to be mixed economy and became largely a free enterprise economy. The last 30 years witnessed good consequences of these changes. National product grew by an average of 8% per annum. The country's exports and imports recorded rise. There was greater diversity in the industrial and farm products. A new field of production and export, the internet sector, emerged as a dominant sector in the total economy, particularly with regards to employment too. There was considerable growth in employment in this manufacturing, real estate, construction sectors. The rising income in urban working class and newly expanding middle class gave rise to the production of variety of consumer goods. Many supporting sectors, transport, communication, entertainments, they emerged. But these changes saw some disturbing developments. While the average per capita income increased, there happened much greater inequality in distribution of income and wealth. The manufacturing sector recorded slower growth than the service sector. This was also not good for the economy. The globalization of the world economy that too after 1990 dominated the finance sector in highly developed economies of the world. In India, because of nationalization of banks in 1969-71 and dominance of the state insurance company, the role of the private financial sector in US was limited. The unregulated business of the financial sector in the USA and European economies resulted in nearly collapse in 2008-9. India was not directly involved, but the indirect impact was there in our economy too. There has been some more developments in world economies aggravating the process of slowdown. Technological development of labor-saving devices led to reduced rate of absorption of labor in manufacturing, construction, transport, shops, and establishment, and even in the farm sector. While it reduced costs, the labor gradually declined. Absorption of labor gradually declined. India is sure to follow this, even if with a lag, but the signs are there. By the time normal conditions returns, these developments are sure to slow growth of employment. The process of slowdown has further been reflected by the current pandemic, that is the COVID-19. The Indian economy has witnessed significant shortcomings after pandemic. There are many, I cannot name it here directly. Despite higher growth, in the first decade of this century, the process of slowdown has been severe. there are several aspects of the economy to be attended on a priority basis. I prefer, particularly in context to the pandemic, to discuss mainly about the three socio-economic infrastructural deficiencies which may be crucial for the economy too. The socio-economic deficiencies which we feel roads, health, and in education sector. We all know, friends, the country has launched a very large national highway development plan, but not every village is connected to the nearest highways by an all-weather road. Without roads, nothing, service or goods can reach a village or go out of village. If evidence of consequence is required, the pandemic has provided it. The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana has left development of the roads to the village panchayats and collectors. This is supposed to be a good program, but the result is, while the villages with pakka roads got concrete roads, but many villages without roads remain without roads. Only this is a empirically verified statistics, only about 60% of the villages are connected to highways by any roads, There is need for equitable, what I want to propose, Mr. Chairman, sir, that there is need for equitable development of funds for this purpose. This will generate employment in the economy, particularly in the village economy too. Other socio-economic infrastructure for widespread development of the population are health and education. It should be clear that these sectors cannot be left to private sector. This is my observation. This sector cannot be left to the private sector. The COVID-19 pandemic cannot be a substitute for, no, sir. The COVID-19 pandemic and the insurance cannot be a substitute in this field and in ordinary situation. It is with this reason that in many developed countries, the state provide basic need of the country, that is the health. It is necessary that there should be at least one primary health center for every 3,000 population. I am happy to note that 2 days back, government of Uttar Pradesh has decided that there would be large scale opening of the primary health centers. In this regard, I saw the recommendation of the cabinet only 2 days back. So it is necessary that there should be at least one primary, I tried to calculate but not putting the figure. It is necessary that there should be at least one primary health center for every 3,000 population, urban or rural, having at least one qualified doctor, supporting a staff with qualified nurses. The center should be provided with generic drugs for common ailments. Presently, very inadequate quantity is provided by the state. Every block headquarter in the state should have a hospital with minimum of 50 beds and facility. Those who require, I can supplement the data even after my address, what I wanted to present. Every block headquarter in the states should have a hospital with a minimum of 50 beds and facility for X-ray, operation, delivery room, ambulance, qualified doctors and nurses. What is very disgusting to me, sir, the supply of generic drugs to the hospitals all over the country, not only in UP, is mainly by private pharmaceuticals. despite the fact, everybody knows that there are at least 10 such pharmaceuticals companies of the state or the public pharmaceutical companies. The basic research on vaccines all over the world is done with financial assistance from the government, including our country. For example, during the pandemic, the ICMR scientists developed the vaccine against COVID-19 in our country. A Hyderabad-based private firm took it to carry necessary tests and large-scale production. If all public pharmaceutical companies could have been given the opportunity to test and manufacture the vaccine, the total production would have been much faster and helping people timely and adequately. There are, on the another point of education, there are in many villages, in many states, tribal or non-tribal, without primary school. In fact, this has been a major failure of the policy planning or the then planning commission. It never designed, the planning commission did never design a targeted plan for provision of funds for primary schools and primary health center and village roads in villages. They never designed. There has been uneven provision of schools in different districts and regions. A principled pattern, this is what I want to say and propose. A principled pattern of provision of schools should be followed to cover the entire population. There should be high school for all children of school-going age within the reasonable distance. Apart from all these, there has been very less emphasis on, we have been speaking in the universities, in colleges, and in our discussion, but there has been very less number of ITIs in the country. There should be fully equipped ITI for every block, public or private, maybe public or private. The new education policy, I hope, would have considered in this aspect. There are some other fields which is also very important, where public sector should step in, so as to ensure free competitive market. The first such is communication. In the sphere of mobile and internet, the state has gradually been withdrawing from traditional services. The state appears to be interested in providing 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G facilities to private companies. In the beginning, many companies entered the field. We know the result of the Reliance Jio, but it is dominating by purchasing many of the things. Yes, I am aware of my time. In the beginning, many companies entered the field, but soon were purchased by big companies. The sector is characterized by oligopoly today. Small users in the field of education, medical services, etc., will have to face monopolist invasion. The land by the sides of railways, highways, expressways can be used by the state for laying fiber optic lines. This may good for education, business, and will be advantage to all. With all weather village roads, schools and primary health and manufacturing, there should be opportunities to open processing and manufacturing unit, a small and large, according to local needs and resources. This will generate employment. I am going to close, Mr. Chairman, sir. There are some more or many aspects of Indian economy not covered in the present address, just because I wanted to focus on some major issues of state policy. These are propositions. There is economic logic to serve the social needs. It will help create democratic polity, adding more flavor to Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Just 1 minute I would like to say that we have been very much distressed due to the pandemic. I have remained in Faizabad, Ayodhya ji, for more than 30 years. I still owe a great to the city and to the citizens of that place. Ayodhya is known for its three cultures, one of Ram or the Koshal, the other of Nawabs of Awadh, and the third of Umrao Jan. In the words of Umrao Jan, वो आए थे मेरी मज़ार पर फूलों का गुलिस्तां लेकर, दो अश्क गिरे उन आँखों से वो फूल चढ़ाना भूल गए. Thank you. जय हिंद.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wise words and information you shared with us. We are blessed to have you here. Now I would like to invite Dr. Ashok Lahiri ji, our guest of honor, to bless the audience with a few words of wisdom. Shri Ashok Lahiri ji, our guest of honors, is a renowned Indian economist and is currently serving as member of the 15th Finance Commission. He has held several key positions in reputed organizations like 12th Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Chairman of Bandhan Bank, Executive Director at the Asian Development Bank. He has also been associated with World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The list of achievement of Sir is very, very long. Sir के achievements की list इतनी लंबी है कि उनके बारे में जो भी कहा जाए वो कम है. ये हमारा सौभाग्य है कि आज इतने श्रेष्ठ अर्थशास्त्री और शिक्षाविद आज हमारे मध्य उपस्थित हैं. इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं सर को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि सर आकर दो शब्द हमारे ऑगस्ट ऑडियंस के लिए कहें. थैंक यू.
Assembled dignitaries on the dais, friends, I must alert you that the Master of Ceremonies said, "Do shabd." No, I'm not going to talk do shabd. I negotiated 25 minutes. So 25 minutes I'm going to speak, and you will allow me to talk on an important subject. So I'm delighted to be here for this inaugural session of the annual National Conference of the Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand Economic Association. I was telling some of the organizers that I have a connection with Uttarakhand, so I should be an honorary member of this association. I wish you a very successful conference with exchange of lots of theoretical and empirical research results and ideas. I noticed that tomorrow you have a session on assessment of pandemic and post-pandemic policies on vulnerable sections of society. I'm also going to talk about the pandemic. See, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the period since 2019 have been tough for the world economy. Lockdowns and disruptions of supply chains, together with the adverse impact on tourism industry, seriously affected many economies. The subsequent Ukraine-Russian war added to the woes. Our neighborhood has been no exception. In the next 25 minutes or so, I want to share with you some thoughts on India and the post-pandemic turmoil in South Asia. Now, what you will notice that until 1991, any exogenous shock, any exogenous shock, would result in a balance of payments crisis in India. It started with the Suez crisis of 1956. Then you had two droughts in the mid-1960s. We had a balance of payments problem. The two oil price shocks in the 1970s, again balance of payments problem. The Gulf War of 1990-91, again a balance of payments problem. Now, the recent COVID pandemic and the Ukraine, thank you, sir, and the Ukraine-Russian war has been an exception. Exception in the sense that some of our neighbors, for example, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, are reeling from a financial crisis, but we have been spared so far. I'm not saying that COVID-19 has left us unscathed, but no balance of payments problem. So let me start with Pakistan. What happened in Pakistan? After the July 2018 election in Pakistan, when former cricket star Imran Khan and his party Tehreek-e-Insaf won 170 of the 342 seats. Mind you, 342 divided by 2 is 171. He got 170. He needed 2 more for absolute majority. He had plurality but no absolute majority in the National Assembly and came to power with the support of some independent members. Pakistan's balance of payments was already in trouble. In July 2019, which was before the COVID pandemic, Pakistan sought an extended fund facility from the IMF and tried to bring matters under control by curbs on imports and large devaluations. See, when we started at independence, Pakistan rupee, no, I'm not bloating, I'm not bragging, but Pakistan rupee and Indian rupee were at par. Now the Pakistan rupee is around 200, our rupee is at 75, but don't boast about it. Be humble. The growth decelerated with contractionary policies, and because they had a devaluation, inflation went up. Imran Khan soon had to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the Taliban in Afghanistan, Pakistani militants in Kashmir, and also the ever-powerful Pakistan military establishment. In 2020, the opposition rallied under the People's Democratic Movement and asked Khan to step down. Imran Khan stepped up the welfare payments. The model has been more or less the same. Welfare payments badhao. He increased the welfare payments during the COVID lockdown. The Ehsaas program provided monthly stipends of up to 12,000 rupees to 13.2 million people during the lockdown. In November 2021, the government introduced the 120 billion rupees food subsidy scheme for low-income households. It's the same principle that every country was following. Followed by the rupees 407 billion Kamyab Pakistan program to distribute interest-free loans. In February 2022, the government announced a round of electricity subsidy, bringing down the rates by rupees 5 per unit and also reduced the rate of petrol and diesel by rupees 10 per litre. Even when global prices are going up, very different from India. In India, we didn't. But in Pakistan, they brought down the price. Subsidies went up. Inflation shot up to 13% in January 2022, and the current account was a deficit of $12.1 billion in the first 8 months of 2021-22, compared to a surplus of $994 billion in the same period of 2021. The Pakistan rupee depreciated 30.5% from rupees 123 against the US dollars in August 2018 to rupees 177 against the US dollar in December 2021. Now, I don't want to go into Pakistan details. You know what happened ultimately, that ultimately he lost the majority, and Imran Khan recommended to the president that you dissolve the assembly. Supreme Court stepped in, said you shouldn't be dissolving the assembly. The assembly was called again, and Shehbaz Sharif became the prime minister, and Imran Khan is out. But I don't think the turmoil is over. So that's the Pakistani story. Now, what about the Sri Lanka story? Some of you may be knowing it, but some of you may not, so I'll just sort of bring you up to speed. The Sri Lankan crisis has been deeper and more complex. Sri Lanka had moved from parliamentary democracy to a semi-presidential system in 1978 under President Jayawardene. He was a nationalist kind of, he started this, many people claim that he started the Sri Lanka, Sinhala and Tamil problem. See, this has been an abiding theme in South Asia. Even during Mrs. Gandhi's time, there were speculations that she wanted to introduce a presidential system. We have heard this thing, that India should also move to a presidential system from a parliamentary system. What it helps is now we have a permanent democracy, a permanent judiciary. When you have a presidential system, then even bureaucracy changes with the times. Anyway, what happened is that the move towards executive presidency was probably born out of the elite impulse. Many times the elite thinks that this parliament doesn't work. If you only have a president, we can do all the good things. Just slam it down the people's throat. The president says, we'll do it, we'll do it. So the elite impulse to create a more stable, centralized political structure, to resist the welfarist electoral impulse to create more stable and a system. The 19th constitutional amendment was passed in 2015 under President Maithripala Sirisena. See, there was a move to go back to the parliamentary system. And then when the Rajapaksa government came, the National Front, it's called Podujana Peramuna, they again went back to the presidential system. Some people claim that Rajapaksa, they had at one point of time, I think 7 Rajapakshas as ministers, president, prime minister. So family can be helped. You don't need to become an elected representative in the parliament to become a minister. The president can appoint him. So the consolidation of powers in the hands of a directly elected president reportedly strengthened the hands of the Rajapaksa family, who controlled the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna party. By end March 2022, I'm talking about last month, Sri Lanka was facing a 13-hour power cut every day. 13 hours. And there was shortage of fuel, food, and medicines, for which the island state were dependent on imports. The country also stopped import of chemical fertilizer. The reason ostensibly they gave is that they will go organic. But actually the reason was the chemical fertilizer had to be imported, and if you stop the fertilizer import, you can conserve foreign exchange. Later they accepted. Food production went down by 20%, I think. They accepted it was a wrong policy. Now, there was shortage of foreign exchange, so they had to devalue. And where did the rupee go? The Sri Lankan rupee was devalued by a little less than 15%, from 197 Sri Lankan rupees to the US dollar to 230 Sri Lankan rupees per US dollar in March 2022. And then in April it has gone down further to 300. The army had to be deployed to manage the long queues at the gas station. There was no gas. You can't run your generator, you can't run your cars. Food prices in March alone went up by 30%. Now, naturally, if you have a presidential system, the president will be blamed for whatever is happening. So, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was the president, people started agitating, go home Gota, go. He had won a few years ago by this huge margin. Now they were asking him to go. No, not many things have happened on the 19th. Again, some ministers have been appointed and so on. Now let me now come to India. Pakistan and Sri Lanka, all these things are happening. What about India? How and why has India avoided a crisis? Crisis was endemic. Some of you students, you were not even born, but we remember the 19th. Ravi will remember very well. Any small problem, we had a balance of payments crisis. Now, one chief minister of one of the states, no names, and another leader of the ruling party in another state have said that India is on the path to face economic crisis like Sri Lanka. Some political leaders have expressed the fear that even if it's not India, some of the state governments will become like Sri Lanka. They will have these problems. Now, in a vibrant democracy, I expect opposition will criticize. I'm also an MLA now. I know the game. So it's the dharma of the opposition to criticize. But as economists, we should also see, is there merit in the criticism? Is it likely? So I give 5 reasons why India's vulnerability in the near future may be limited. First, in both Sri Lanka and Pakistan, the proximate reason for the crisis was the lack of foreign exchange reserve. Foreign exchange hai hi nahi, to denge kaise? Between 1991, when India launched its market-based reforms, and 2020, foreign exchange reserves, including gold, you have to be very careful when you're talking of numbers. You have foreign currency reserve and foreign exchange reserve. Foreign exchange reserve includes foreign currency plus gold plus SDRs. Now, from 1991, our reserves have gone up 77-fold, from 7.6 billion to $590.2 billion. The corresponding increase in Pakistan has been only 15-fold, from $1.2 billion to $18.5 billion, and in Sri Lanka, 8-fold, from $0.7 billion to $5.7 billion. In 2020, leaving the US apart, India was the country with the 5th largest foreign exchange reserve in the world, next only to China, Japan, Switzerland, and Russia. In 2022, India had foreign exchange reserves equivalent to 10.2 months of imports. Even if you didn't export anything, you could pay from your foreign exchange reserve for 10 months for all your imports. Now, compared to that, Pakistan had only 2.5 months import cover, and Sri Lanka had 1.1 months of imports. So it is unlikely that such reserves in India would be quickly exhausted to land the country in a balance of payments crisis. If India is not going to have a foreign exchange crisis, then no state can have a foreign exchange crisis, because foreign exchange is dealt with by the center. So I consider it very unlikely all of a sudden you will wake up and find India has got a balance of payments crisis. Now, large foreign exchange reserves have often been described as war chests. You keep some war chest, pata nahi kya hoga, rakhte hain, to be used in difficult times. They entail a cost, because you are holding on to foreign exchange reserves which you could have used for importing capital goods and making development, but you always buy insurance cover. Now, but they do come handy in times of COVID pandemic when export earnings dry up, but essential imports and debt servicing must continue. Now, when you look at the external balance of payments, how are you having a current account surplus? How are you having this? Where did these exchange reserves come from? Now, what happens is that the balance of payments, the external accounts, you make all your calculations. How much exchange you have earned by exporting, how much exchange you had to pay by importing, how much did you borrow, how much investment came back, so on. So you have the current account and the capital account. Now the current account is basically the whatever is you have exported, not capital in the sense it doesn't involve something that you have to do in the future. If you borrow money from me, you get rupees all right, but it also entails that you have to pay me back. But if you sell me a banana and I give you 2 rupees, that 2 rupees is yours. There is no payment to be made. So the current account is unrequited. There is nothing more to be given. Now, if you look at the annual average current account deficit as a proportion of GDP, India's was 1.2%. What was Pakistan's? Pakistan was 2.5% and Sri Lanka was 3.6%. So even in terms of current account, we are doing better than these two countries. I'm not saying we are doing good enough, well enough. Because you look at China, you can look at Korea, you look at Hong Kong, you look at Singapore, they have a current account surplus. There is no reason, I don't understand why we can't have a current account surplus. But anyway, even if you're having a deficit, we're having a less of a deficit than Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Then you look at capital account, FDI, foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is a good thing in the sense that it's not a loan, you don't have to repay it. Annually, FDI in India has gone up from $7.6 billion in 2005 to $64.4 billion. Fourth, see, where do you get this foreign exchange from? Ultimately, what happens? You have an income, you have an expenditure. Your income says 20,000 rupees and you are spending 22,000 rupees. Where will that 2,000 rupees come from? You'll borrow. Whereas if your income is 20,000 rupees and you're spending only 15,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees will be your surplus. So a country is also like that. Whatever you're producing and whatever you are consuming or investing, the difference shows up in current account deficit. Now India, the best thing about India, it's not good enough. If I sound as if I'm very happy, I'm not very happy. But you look at the fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit as a proportion of GDP annually on average was 8.3% in India. It was higher than 5.2% in Pakistan and 6.9% in Sri Lanka. Fiscal deficit is actually on the government account, how much the government is earning and how much the government is spending. I know many economists, many of you will say, oh, government is not like India, but ultimately some rules will have to be followed. But despite the fact that the fiscal deficit is higher in India, the redeeming feature is our investment rate. The gross savings rate in India is around 31% compared with 24% in Sri Lanka and 17% in Pakistan. Now mind you should feel ashamed because in China it's around 50%. Ultimately in this wretched country of mine, if you want to develop, you need capital. You need to move from a scooter to a car, you need to move from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, you need to move from a thatched hut to a nice house, so you need savings, you need investment. But investment is higher than in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. The gross capital formation is also 32%. which is higher than the corresponding 27% in Sri Lanka and 17% in Pakistan. So as long as gross capital formation is there, people are betting on India, that India is going to grow. Fifth is the role of the real effective exchange rate. So all of you notice, oh, 77 rupees ban gaya, 75 rupees to the dollar. But what you have to think of is what is happening to your inflation and what is happening to inflation in the United States. Because I am selling bananas in the United States. इधर मैं 4 केले खरीदता था 20 रुपया में. If the rupee is say 80 rupees to the dollar, for argument's sake, then that's a quarter, 25 cents. I'll see whether I can sell it in United States for more than 25 cents or not. If kele price goes up here from 20 to 30, I can't make profit. So you have to look at the exchange rate in terms of prices, inflation. Now what India has done from 1991, it has paid a lot of attention to the real effective exchange rate. What is happening to the nominal exchange rate and what is happening to the inflation rate. Now, as long as we have that focus, I think we're going to do all right. The reason is, it's easier said than done. Okay, inflation ho gaya, devalue the currency. You may get into the wage price exchange rate spiral. For argument's sake, God forbid, suppose the rupee goes from 70 to 80. Then what happens? Whatever you're importing, the price will go up. As soon as the price goes up, you will import more, the exchange rate will be under pressure. So this has happened in many countries, that you devalue and you couldn't stop the wage price exchange rate spiral. For that, you need macroeconomic prudence. Let me end with a warning though. I'm noticing a lot of freebies being given by politicians. I told you I'm a politician myself now, that I'm an MLA. It's irresistible. Politicians find it irresistible to promise freebies. Loans, माफ हो जाएगा. Electricity, मुफ्त में दे देंगे. But all these, no one else is going to pay for it. The country has to pay for it. And it results in fiscal deficit. Am I thinking of an economy or a political economy where politicians will not do that? No. There will be these tendencies in the fiercely competitive political situation. These will be there, but we have to remain within limits. Because if we keep giving freebies here, there and everywhere, then again I don't think we're going to have a disaster overnight, but it will be like death by 1,000 cuts. We'll all of a sudden find that the strength that we have, the inherent strength of the Indian economy, is being lost. So what is the burden of my song? The burden of my song is, you don't need to lose your sleep, but you do need to be alert that we don't do anything which gets back to the pre-91 days, that any flutter anywhere, some problem, will end up in a balance of payments crisis. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your enlightenment and your wonderful speech. We are indeed blessed to have you among us. Before we move on to the next segment, I would request Dr. Vinod Srivastav ji to please felicitate one of our very eminent economists and professors from Sharda University, Professor Dr. Prem Vashish sir. I request Dr. Prem Vashish to please come on the stage. जी, मैं अनुरोध करूंगी विनोद श्रीवास्तव जी से कि वो डॉक्टर अशोक लहरी जी का भी सम्मान करें। मेरा अनुरोध है डॉक्टर सरिता द्विवेदी जी से कि वो आकर प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर वीपीएस अरोड़े जी का सम्मान करें। सर, आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू प्लीज। जी, हमारा अनुरोध है डॉक्टर प्रिया कुमारी जी से वो कृपया स्टेज पर आकर मिस्टर विवेक गुप्ता रजिस्ट्रार शारदा यूनिवर्सिटी का सम्मान करें। सर, हाँ sir, I think due to some important work he has left the auditorium for now, but he was there with us few minutes back. Moving on, जैसा कि गीता में कहा गया है कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, अर्थात कर्म करो और फल की चिंता मत करो। और ऐसे ही कई प्रतिभा और प्रतिमाओं से लबालब है हमारा शिक्षा समाज, पर कभी कभी पुरस्कार रूपी फल हमें ये आश्वासन दिलाते हैं कि हम सही दिशा में जा रहे हैं। With these few lines, we move to the very important segment of this session, the felicitation of the UPUEA Kautilya Awardee for the year 2022. And with immense pleasure and exultation, I would now invite Professor Dr. Ashok Mittal, Chairman of the Kautilya Award Committee and Professor, School of Social Sciences, Aligarh Muslim University, former VC Dr. Ambedkar University, Agra, to kindly do the honors. And this prestigious Kautilya Award is given for the exemplary work in the field of economics. Sir.
It gives me immense pleasure and I feel proud in reading the citation for Kautilya Award this year being given to a very noted economist, a good human being, and a great researcher, Professor D.K. Nauriyal. We have a very long list of his achievements, but Professor Ravi Srivastav has tried his level best to include those achievements and whatever he has done so far in this citation. Professor D.K. Nauriyal, winner of the Kautilya Award for outstanding contribution to teaching and research in economics, is one of the IIT Roorkee's senior-most professors. He has been associated with IIT Roorkee, formerly known as University of Roorkee, since August 1985. Prior to this, he worked at Himbati Nanda Bahuguna Garhwal University, Srinagar, for over 7 years after finishing his studies at University of Lucknow. He has a total of 44 years of research and teaching experience, including more than 21 years as professor. He has over 60 research papers published in reputed national and international journals. He has worked on 7 major research projects, both independently and in collaboration with others, that have been funded by the organizations such as United Nations Development Program, the World Intellectual Property Organization, Geneva, the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Government of India, the University Grants Commission, the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Social Welfare, Government of India, among others. Additionally, he has also undertaken over 25 consultancy projects funded by USAID, Damodar Valley Corporation, Chandrapura, Bokaro, Jharkhand, Rajasthan Rajya Vidyut Vitran Limited, Jaipur, Small Industries Development Bank of India, SIDBI. He has co-edited 4 books, 2 of them published by the Routledge and Taylor and Francis Group, London, January 2006. Another book is under publication by Palgrave Macmillan, UK. He has supervised 18 research theses as well as several MTech dissertations. In 2012, IIT Roorkee named him Outstanding Teacher of the Year in recognition of his contributions. On June 25, 2017, he was presented with the All India Conference of Intellectuals coveted Uttarakhand Ratan Award. The Indian Economic Association honored him with the Lifetime Achievement Award in June 2018. Professor Naurial is a member of the Government of India constituted Indian National Commission for Cooperation with UNESCO. He was also nominated as a member of committee constituted by Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, for the establishment of Jai Prakash Narayan Center of Excellence. Further, he has served as advisor to the Japan International Cooperation Agency and Japan Bank of International Cooperation for the dedicated foreign freight corridor Mumbai to Havra, costing over 60,000 crores of rupees. This was, of course, the old estimate. He was entrusted with the task of studying the socio-economic aspects of resettlement. It's such a long list. The aspects of resettlement and rehabilitation of the project's affected population. He is a member of the Joint Advisory Committee of the Indian Council of Social Science Research and the India National Research Council of Thailand. He has served as an expert, chairman for the UGC committees for granting autonomous status to the academic institutions, colleges, as chairman of the NAC committee for granting accreditation grades to the academic institutions, expert of the ICSSR's foreign collaboration initiatives for awarding postdoctoral fellowships, major research projects, and reviewer of the ICSSR-funded research projects reports, and also acted as the chairman of the committee set up by the ICSSR for evaluating the work of 4 ICSSR institutes. For 3 years, commencing January 1, 2000, as head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Roorkee, he introduced two subjects. He introduced two subjects, philosophy and sociology, while also boasting the significance of humanities and social sciences in the overall engineering and scientific education curriculum. The development organized in first international conference during this time period, which was presided over by the Holiness of the Dalai Lama and attended by the hundreds of delegates from India and throughout the world. He has served as the Dean of Students' Welfare at IIT Roorkee from May 2014 to March 2017, following which he became Vice Chancellor of the Kumayu University, Nainital. He also served as the Vice Chancellor of Uttarakhand Open University for 7 months prior to the appointment of a regular Vice Chancellor. While serving as Vice Chancellor of Kumayu University, he pioneered the use of information technology, the introduction of skill-oriented academic programs in forensic science, criminology, and Center of Excellence for Research in Himalayan medicinal plants, herbs and subs, and the complete automation of admission, examination, and accounting system. The Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand Economic Association is proud to facilitate Professor Naurial, an outstanding teacher and researcher, with the Kautilya Award for the year 2022, and we wish him life ahead full of achievements and honors. So I congratulate Professor Naurial and request him to come to the dais so that we can felicitate him.
May I call Professor A.K. Singh Sahab? Please command us. Professor A.K. Singh sir, please. Anup भैया, Anup sir, A.K. Singh sir को लेते आइए. Sir आप आइए please. A.K. Singh साहब.
जाइए मैडम, आप भी जाइए, सब लोग जाए ना। नहीं अब नहीं सर, मस्ट प्लीज़, आप नहीं आने ना प्लीज़ जाइए। अच्छा
We would now request Professor Dr. Naurial to please render his acceptance speech.
With a deep sense of gratitude, I express my heartfelt thanks to UPUEA and Uttarakhand Economic Association, its President Professor Ravi Shastri, Secretary Professor Vinod Srivastav, the Executive Committee and the General Assembly, which must have nominated me for this very, very coveted prize. I stand honored and more humbled today. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. But I have something more to share. May I please? Okay. I would like to speak about three major developments that have influenced the economic thinking a lot over a period of time. One is the macroeconomic shift, and there are three shifts in macroeconomic thoughts. Then the four industrial revolutions. Most of us know about one industrial revolution, but now we have the fourth industrial revolution that's sweeping all through the world, and India in particular. And then obviously, I'll also have a very brief for world development, a millennial perspective, which essentially was a commissioned study by OECD and was undertaken by Professor Angus Madison. I'll speak very briefly about these all. So please allow me to speak on these different themes. And I'll try to take least possible time. I will first of all start with the shift in macroeconomics. The first shift occurred in 1930s, all of us know, after the Great Depression, when high levels of unemployment and sustained low output could not be explained in terms of the then prevalent Marshallian economics. Keynes invented modern macroeconomics, which hinged on fiscal policy and the role of government intervention. The economic policies based on Keynesian economics worked well for almost 4 decades that followed. In 1970s, there was inversion of the relationship between economic growth and inflation, which gave rise to the phenomenon of stagflation. Inflation climbed while economic growth plummeted and even stagnated at times, and unemployment rose. Keynesian economics model essentially broke down. This was to bring about the second shift in economic thought in the middle of 1970s, when Milton Friedman espoused his belief in free markets, a focus on money supply, and advocacy of less government intervention, which paved the way for the policy of inflation targeting at central banks, downgrading the importance of fiscal policy and according primacy to the monetary policy. However, in 2008, the globalized world sank into recession from which it is yet to recover fully. The failure to foresee the crisis has impelled us to have a relook at the macroeconomic theory. The direction in which macroeconomics is heading in response to the disruptive rate of technological change is already on the horizon through the new relationship developing between people and technology and organizations. Breakthroughs in autonomy, extreme connectivity, analytics, simulation, and the rapid feedback loops are rewriting these relationships and driving the interplay to create a system approach to most business environments. So that's about the macroeconomic shifts, and these have, essentially very deeply influenced our thinking with respect to macroeconomic perspective. Similarly, another major development that has taken place over a period of time, but has also influenced the economic thinking a lot, is about industrial revolutions. So we all know that the first industrial revolution was marked by a transition from manual production to machines through the use of steam and water power. That was the beginning of it. The implementation of new technologies took a long time. So the period which this refers to is between 1760 to 1840 in Europe and the United States. Its effects had consequences on textile manufacturing, which was first to adopt such a change, as well as iron industry, agriculture, and mining, although it also had societal effects with an emergence of an ever stronger middle class. It also had an effect on British industry at that point in time. The second industrial revolution, which is also known as the technological revolution, is the period between 1871 and 1914 that resulted from installations of extensive railroad and telegraph networks, which allowed for faster transfer of people and ideas as well as the electricity. Increasing electrification allowed for factories to develop the modern production line. It was a period of great economic growth with an massive increase in productivity, which also caused a surge in unemployment since many factory workers were replaced by the machines. The third industrial revolution, which also known as digital revolution, occurred in the late 20th century after the end of the two world wars, and the period defined for the third industrial revolution is 1950 to 1969, resulting from a slowdown of industrialization and technological advancements compared to previous periods. The production of Z1 computer, which used binary floating point numbers and Boolean logic a decade later, was the beginning of more advanced digital developments. The next significant development in communication technologies was the supercomputer, with extensive use of computer and communication technologies in the production process. Machinery began to abrogate the need for human power. The fourth industrial revolution suggests that it is a distinct revolution from the past, and it began from since 1969. And it does have three major characteristics. One is the velocity, another is the scope and system impacts, and third is the paradigm shift in technology policy. So when I say velocity, I am essentially referring to the exponential speed at which incumbent industries are affected and displaced. When I am talking about scope and systems impact, I am essentially referring to the large amount of sectors and firms that are affected. And when we refer to the paradigm shift in technology policy, we essentially mean the new policies designed for this new way of doing things. In a sense, the fourth industrial revolution is the trend towards automation and data exchange in manufacturing technologies and processes, which include cyber physical systems, IoT or Internet of Things, cloud computing, cognitive computing, and artificial intelligence. Mainly these technologies can be summarized into four major components, defining the term Industry 4 or smart factory. One is the cyber physical systems, then Internet of Things, on-demand availability of computer system resources, and cognitive computing. That's about these two major events, the shift in macroeconomics and industrial revolutions, have very significantly influenced the economic thinking over a period of time. There are a few more information which I would like to share with you. And if, the slide, I need the first slide, it's too fast. I am referring to the work of Angus Maddison, who was a Ward Scholar on quantitative macroeconomic history, including the measurement and analysis of economic growth and development. He was professor in the Faculty of Economics, University of Groningen from 1978 to 1997, and a founder of the Groningen Growth and Development Center. He is best known for his estimates of world gross domestic product that go back all the way to the year 1st AD. Published in 2001, but still relevant today, The World Economy, A Millennial Perspective, the book written by him and commissioned by OECD, provides a comprehensive view of the growth and levels of world population since the year 1000 AD. In this period, world population rose 22-fold, per capita GDP 13-fold, and world GDP nearly 300-fold. The biggest gains occurred in the rich countries of today, comprising Western Europe, North America, Australasia, and Japan. And the gap between the world leader, which is United States, and the poorest region, Africa, stands at 20-1 now. In the year 1000, the rich countries of today were poorer than Asia and Africa. I would very quickly go through the slides here. Yeah, please. This is not the first slide. Bring the second slide, please. Second or third. Yeah, it's that. In 1000 AD, China and India together contributed 50.5% of world GDP, being computed in $1990 and in purchasing power parity terms. By 1600, the share had gone up to, their combined share had gone up to 51.4%, with China accounting for 29% and India 22.4% of the world GDP. By 1700, China's GDP had fallen, but India's went up to 24.4% of world output. By 1820, however, India's share fell to 16.1%. It further went down by 1870 to 12.2%, and right now it's roughly around 3.1%. Let's have a look at few more figures, per capita incomes of the selected countries. Yeah, it's here. In first AD, India's GDP per capita was $450. China was at the same level. Italy's GDP per capita was $809 under Roman Empire. In 1000 AD, India's per capita income was the same. It has not increased, but China's per capita income rose. Turkey and Iraq, yes, okay. Turkey and Iraq, they recorded a higher growth, essentially because of the caliphate in Baghdad was a center of power at that point in time. By 15,000 AD, India's per capita income rose, and same happened to the China's per capita income, but Italy's per capita income was the highest, essentially because Venice was the first real financial center emerging since 9th century. And this was the time of Renaissance. This was also the time of Michelangelo, and this was also the time of Leonardo da Vinci. Netherlands per capita income was high, but it was a golden period for Netherlands, and therefore in next 1,000 years, it rose to 1,381 US dollars. UK's per capita income was 714, but by 1600 it rose to 974. So the comparison goes endlessly, and there are few more slides, but I have been served the notice that your time is up. So I take it with grace. Thank you so much for all the honor that was done to me. I stand grateful. Thank you, sir. Thank you, please.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको हम सभी की तरफ से हार्दिक बधाई और आपके आने वाले समय के लिए बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। सर, आपका जोश और उत्साह देखते हुए लगता है जिंदगी की उड़ान अभी बाकी है, जिंदगी के कई इम्तिहान अभी बाकी है, अभी तो नापी है मुट्ठी भर ज़मीन हमने, अभी तो सारा आसमान बाकी है। इसी के साथ हम आगे बढ़ते हैं हमारे आखिरी सत्र के इस समारोह के सत्र की तरफ, जो है रिलीज़ ऑफ UPUEA जर्नल्स एंड बुक। और इसके लिए मैं अनुरोध करूंगी हमारे माननीय अतिथिगण से वो कृपया जर्नल का विमोचन करें। इसके साथ साथ कुछ किताबों का भी विमोचन हो रहा है। इसके साथ साथ कुछ किताबों का भी विमोचन होने जा रहा है, जो है कला धाम, कला काम और रूप कला। ये सारी किताबें अयोध्या पर हैं रचित, और इनकी लेखिका हैं डॉक्टर सरिता द्विवेदी जी। मैं निवेदन करूंगी डॉक्टर सरिता से।
मैं करा देता हूँ। ये अयोध्या पे लिखी गई किताबें हैं, और इसमें इसकी विशेषता ये है कि राम जन्मभूमि ट्रस्ट के जो अध्यक्ष हैं उन्होंने इसमें आशीर्वाद शब्द के रूप में लिखा है। तो बहुत ही अच्छी किताबें हैं, और मेरी फैकल्टी ने इसको लिखा है, तीनों ही किताबें, उनको बधाई। मैं इसमें मेंटरिंग का काम किया है। डॉक्टर आर के द्विवेदी साहब हैं हमारे बीच। हम कहते आपको कृपया आप मंच पे आ जाएं। डॉक्टर आर के द्विवेदी सर, आपने भी इस किताब में काफ़ी हेल्प किया है, चूँकि अयोध्या से हम लोग बिलोंग करते हैं जी। तो ये किताबें हैं जिनका कि लोकार्पण हो रहा है। आप भी आ जाइए, सब लोग को दीजिए। हाँ, ले आइए किताब। जो हमारे राम मंदिर ट्रस्ट के अध्यक्ष हैं उन्होंने इसमें वर्ड्स लिखे हैं इस किताब को देख के, तो काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण किताब है। और डिप्टी सीएम साहब ने भी अपने मैसेज में इन किताबों को इंडोर्स किया है। ये किताबें वहाँ भी जाएंगी। तो जो भी हमारे यूपीआ के सम्मानित सदस्यगण हैं उनकी भी बुक्स रिलीज होती है, ऐसी हमारी परंपरा रही है। तो ये किताबें हैं जो कि अयोध्या के विशेष संदर्भ में लिखी गई हैं, और ये किताबें आपको अवेलेबल रहेंगी। मैं आप सभी जो भी हमारे अतिथिगण हैं, मैं निवेदन करूंगा कि कृपया इस किताब को लोकार्पित करने की कृपा करें। सर प्लीज। मैडम आप भी आ जाइए। अब जो अगली किताब को जो रिलीज होना है वो लोकवित्त है। डॉक्टर अनामिका चौधरी मैम हैं। मैं आप एसोसिएशन के सम्मानित इसी मेंबर भी हैं। बहुत ही जो जर्नल आपने देखा है, पूरा जर्नल का एडिटिंग का काम आपने ही किया है, इन्हीं के सौजन्य से बना है। आप हेड इकोनॉमिक्स हैं शारदा शकुंतला मिश्रा पुनर्वास विश्वविद्यालय लखनऊ से। तो इनकी लिखी किताब है लोकवित्त। मैं आमंत्रित करना चाहूँगा कि कृपया आएँ और अपनी किताब का लोकार्पण माननीय अतिथियों से कराने की कृपा करें। मैडम प्लीज़ आइए। जोरदार तालियों से ये आप ही के बीच के लोग हैं जो कि किताबों को लिखते हैं।
I will now request Professor Parmanand ji to give a memento to Ashok Lahiri ji. Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to invite Dr. Manisha Gupta to propose a vote of thanks for the inaugural session.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Feeling gratitude and not expressing is like wrapping a present and not giving it. And thank you is such a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I am thankful to all the organizing committee of Uttar Pradesh-Uttarakhand Economic Association. Specifically, we like to mention Professor Ravi Srivastava, President, Professor P.K. Sinha, sir, who is the conference president, and Vinod, sir, who has constantly guided us and supported us to shape the conference. I feel deeply gratified and thank Dr. Ashok Lahiri, our guest of honor, for the inaugural session, as accepting our invitation and gracing the occasion. A special thank to Vinod sir here again I would like to mention, because he has approached the Deputy CM UP Shri Brijesh Pathak ji, and we are really thankful to the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister as well, as he has sent his AV in the form of blessings. I am deeply gratified, and the core committee as well, and we like to convey our deep regards and thanks to Honorable Chancellor Sir, Shri P.K. Gupta Sir, and our Honorable Pro-Chancellor Sir, Shri Y.K. Sir, although they are not present here, but we like to thank both of them for their constant guidance and support, and also our VC Sir, Professor Parmanand Sir, for sparing time and gracing the occasion. An event of this dimension cannot be happening like in overnight. This is a wheel that started rolling over a month in advance. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by the team of very motivated and dedicated students and research scholars. Our non-teaching staffs and the synergy of our department would not be completed without the energy of our faculty colleagues. On behalf of SBS Sharda University, I would like to express my deep appreciation and gratitude for the overwhelming response from the faculty members, research scholars, and authors who would be presenting their papers in the coming session of the program. I would like to thank all the honorable delegates who blessed us with their presence today and in coming events. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have showed and willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. The organizing committee very much thankful to our sponsors as well over here, because it was their help because without their help it would have been impossible for the organizing such an event, and we really thankful to the sponsors. Last but not the least, would like to thank Professor Vasis sir and our honorable respected Dean ma'am, Jayanti ma'am, for creating a team that believes in synergy and positive outcomes. I am the Once again, I'd like to, at the end, to our students who have graced this occasion. They have come, they have volunteered. Once again, at the end, I would like to thank all the people who are associated. Just the beginning, the execution is still at that initial phase. There are 1.5 more days to go. And we'll be needing your constant support and obviously the guidance from the organizing committee and the Uttar Pradesh-Uttarakhand Economic Association. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manisha ma'am, for such a heartwarming vote of thanks. One important announcement before we conclude this session. All the students are requested to stay back here for the refreshment. All the VIPs are requested to proceed to the same floor for the lunch. And faculties, paper presenters are requested to proceed to third floor for the lunch. And also we acknowledge our sponsor partners for this event: Sunstone, ICICI Bank, ISDC, Grand Venice, Vitas, Travel Mice Private Limited. Thank you so much for your support. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'll request all of you to please rise in the honor of National Anthem. Thank you, sir. Students, please be seated. Students, please be seated. Please be seated for the refreshment. Students, please be seated here. Student volunteer for discipline committee, please report to Dr. Dalip Parimu, sir. Student volunteers for discipline committee.